are stories that connect us to ourselves and each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid, wild colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. And now, exclusively on KGRA Radio, I give you your host for Soul Wanderings Radio. Here's AJ.
Hello, everyone. We are finally here. This is Soul Wanderings, and we are hosted on... Hi, everyone. We are just doing awesome tonight. Okay, so I had my mute on. That's something that people do all of the time, but I haven't done that before. Hi, welcome. We are finally here. Thank you for your patience after a short delay. We had some connection issues with our guests, but they are here and ready to wander with us. Thank you for hanging out until we were able to go live with you. I definitely did not want to postpone this show any longer because it's going to be a great one. As you all know, you're probably already familiar with our guests. They've been around the world that we all come and visit and question everything. So we'll just get right to it, seeing how we did miss some time, and we'll just get going because why not? We have a very fascinating show planned for all of you tonight. And I'm sure if you guys read the post on social media, you're really excited and waiting to hear all about the topics of conversation that we'll be discussing. Tonight we have two guests, Dan Baldwin and George Sewell, and they will discuss their research with Lindsay Higgins, whose story was the subject of the Netflix series Haunted, and we'll also be having conversations about the UFO phenomenon, the spirit world, and beyond. Let's bring in our guests, Dan and George. Hi, fellas. How are you?
Hello.
Good. I'm so glad we were able to get you. I was a little worried. It kind of threw me off my little routine there, but I'm glad that you're here, and I'm so happy about it because I've had the opportunity to learn a little bit about you both. You've come up in conversations in my past, and when I found out I had an opportunity for you to visit with us, I got giddy. I fangirled. So thank you both for being here. You both have very long bios, and I could go on and on and on and about all of the things that you guys are about and what you do, but no one better to tell us about you than you. So let's have George go first.
Okay, quick bio. One, I've always had an interest in astronomy, things universal, all things space travel, as well as all things paranormal. Professionally, I'm a retired counselor, but for several years in the late 80s, 1990s, I was the assistant Mutual UFO Network state director in Louisiana and had an opportunity to speak with many, many people in the northwest corner of Louisiana who had encounters and sightings and whatnot. So I've kept up that arena through the years, and it proved to be very useful for this particular endeavor.
Wonderful. So good. What about you, Dan?
Well, I'm a full-time writer. I do a lot of ghost writing in addition to writing about ghosts. And I also write novels, do magazine articles and things like this. I got interested in the psychic world about 22 years ago when I just felt an uncontrollable urge to go find missing children. And that was something of a quest there. But if I ended up hanging out with psychics, I figured that was the best way to use my talents would be develop my psychic talent. And I bumped into somebody who was a dowser, pendulum dowser, and I picked up the skill. And I'm a self-taught dowser, and I still work a little bit looking for missing persons. And through that, I got into investigating ghost town, ghost mines, a lot of Arizona ruins, speaking with spirits. And then that led into I wrote a book called The Paranormal Pendulum about using pendulum dowsing to contact the spirit world. And then was spending the night over at George's house one night. I said, "Hey, I've got an idea. Look, I've got this pendulum, and you've got all this experience with UFOs, and we both are interested in the paranormal world and this, and even in contacting the spirit world. What if we, kind of butted heads on this and see what happens?" So George was kind of the chief researcher and on the Paranormal Pendulum 2 book, which is all about what the spirit world is like. And out of that, we came up with doing a book solely on one of the characters in that book, Lindsay Higgins, about the alien abductions.
Mm-hmm. Would Lindsay be one of your biggest cases that you've ever investigated? Is that why she's such a focus to you both?
Yeah, George, you handle that.
Yeah, Lindsay is a very special person in so many ways. Let me give you a little background on Lindsay. She's a Shreveport native. Lindsay's life has been full of paranormal events, various what we would call extraterrestrial manifestations. We have to concur that she has indeed had physical as well as astral visitations from these individuals. And like so many people, Lindsay had all this experience and she couldn't take it anywhere. Her family were just, what's
right.
What's going on with you? And she finally reached a point in September of 2017 that, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't sit on this anymore. It's killing me. So she had a little discussion with her husband, and she happened to listen to a podcast that gave the contact information for a Los Angeles production company that was looking for stories of paranormal events that occurred during a person's lifetime to use in a possible Netflix series. And Lindsay said, okay, that's it. That's how I'm going to do it. So she wrote up her story, sent it out to the production company. Within 14 hours, they're back with her saying, okay, we need to set up a formal interview. They had a formal interview the next day. And the next day after that, okay, we're going to do your story. Now, are there any other people in Shreveport, Bossier, Louisiana, who've had similar experiences or know about these things? And that's what prompted Lindsay to call a friend of hers who happened to be a friend of mine to see were there other people or whatnot. And the individual said, "Oh, you need to call George Sewell. He knows some of these things." And so I got a phone call out of the blue one night from Lindsay mentioning that she's going to be involved in this production. And then I got 2 hours of the whole Lindsay story, beginning when she was about 2.5 years of age up to the present. And after listening to all of her stories, I said, Lindsay, just about every one of these I've heard before from different people, different places, and different times. And that was a great relief for her. And subsequently, I was invited to participate with the Netflix. It's series 1, the first season, episode 5.
Right.
And that's where Lindsay and I first met person to person, was on location in California for that shoot. And following that, Dan's in town. We're going around to various haunted houses and buildings in Shreveport trying to find out who's the spook and what they're up to as part of some of the material for our Pendulum 2 book, and introduced Dan to Lindsay and her husband. And that's when we just kind of, okay, this pendulum, this may be the best investigative tool to look at what's going on in Lindsay's life. And so everybody nodded their head and off we went.
Just like that.
Let me toss in terms of missing person cases, I've worked hundreds of cases all around the world in missing person cases. Lindsay Higgins is the only case that I have actually worked in depth on the in depth. Now back in the 80s, I would go out with George on some of his MUFON expeditions, and his interviews. I was kind of the objective observer, so I've had some experience in it. But Lindsay's my first really serious case, and that's a full plate right there.
Yeah, right, because she's had more than one experience. She's had a lifetime of experiences.
Yes, that's what's distinctive about Lindsay. And it's not just the ET angle, which we learned a whole lot about that in the course of the investigation. But she also has some psychic ability. She's able to sometimes see spirits. And this was kind of confusing for her, of course, as a child. But she's just had a really rich lifetime of not knowing what on earth is going on with her. And so she was very, very relieved, if you will, to have a chance to take a look at what's happening. And a number of things were learned that were not suspected.
Yeah, something I think your readers or listeners and viewers will find interesting is this is not just a case of abduction or contactees. This is a case that involves abductions, contactees, but it also involves the spirit world, contact with spirits. It also involves reincarnation, and it also involves communication with beings of a higher spiritual realm. It's all mixed up, in one case. It's a very complex case.
And the nice thing about using the pendulum as the primary investigative tool is it allowed us to communicate with the spirit realm and also with the extraterrestrials who were involved. So that was a component that was very pleasing to be able to do. We also had a couple of evidential mediums who were part of our team, so we had their input as well. So we had a lot of cross-check for the information we were finding over these 2 years, and that which stood up the most is what's in the book Paranormal Pendulum 3.
Well, this definitely can go in so many directions. First, before we go too far, because the Netflix episode, I remember watching it because they have a few seasons into that series now. But I specifically remember Lindsay's because, of course, I'm fascinated with the topic. So she stood out to me because her story was so fascinating and so terrifying also. But they're only like 20 minutes long approximately. Right. So I know that was like barely the tip of the iceberg with her. And I'd like to learn more about her experiences tonight. However, before we go too far, let's talk about the pendulum, seeing how that is a major tool that you use. Some people may not know what it is. It's one of my favorite tools. I love the way that it works for everything, but the way that you use it is very unique. Dan, do you want to explain to us the process and what a pendulum is?
Yeah, basically it's one of the simplest things you can do. It's a technology that goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Anything that's been around that long, there's got to be something to it. Mm-hmm. But a pendulum, is nothing more than a weight on a string. That's all it is. And the way it works is you ask yes or no questions. And one of the things I like about it is there's no room for interpretation. In other words, you're going to get a yes, which generally is a right swing, or you'll get a no, which is generally a left swing. Or if you get a swing that goes back and forth, it's like, rephrase the question, dummy. Or sometimes or it's like I'm not going to tell you. It's none of your business. But basically, you ask yes or no questions, and the pendulum swings one way or the other way. An oversimplification of the way it works is, in a way, it's like hypnotism. The old watch the watch bit. Well, while your conscious mind is looking at that thing, your subconscious mind is freed up, and your subconscious mind is the element that makes contact with the other realm, spirit world, ETs, what if you want to call it the Akashic records, or the information that's out there. The information is basically downloaded from those other sources through your subconscious. And it's actually your subconscious mind that directs your fingers to move the pendulum. There's no magic in the pendulum whatsoever. I mean, it's a rock on a string.
It's a tool.
That's all it is. There's no magic in it. The magic is with the subconscious and whoever you're contacting. And one of the real benefits of it that really paid off in this book was with the pendulum dowsing. You can have really extended conversations with the spirit world or with whoever you're contacting. It's not like you're sitting in a haunted house hoping to hear a rap on the door, or maybe if you're lucky, you get an EVP. You can actually have conversations, and I mean legitimate conversations where you ask questions, you get answers back and forth. I think we've had conversations up to 20 minutes or more.
Wow.
With the spirit world. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, and it's energy, right? It just works.
Yeah. Everything is energy. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I just think it's so neat how it works and how accurate it is.
Yeah, and you can get it wrong. I mean, if you can influence the pendulum. Like one of the hard things that I always had when I was doing missing person cases, you want the missing child to be alive. And so if you think about that, is the little 5-year-old cute girl, is she alive? You'll get a yes if that's what you're thinking. The hard part about pendulum dowsing is you've got to keep your mind absolutely clear, because it's easy to make that thing swing either way.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I actually teach how to use your pendulum classes.
Okay, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And you do. You have to clear your mind completely and be free from any response, any answer, any direction that you want it to go, because it will alter the answer that it gives you, because energy is energy.
Yeah. If you're asking, is the little missing 5-year-old girl in Arizona, but you're thinking about, should I put onions in my chili tonight? You're going to get the question. You're going to get the answer to the chili question, because that's what you're thinking.
Right. You're right. You have to be completely clear.
Ask the question, clear your mind, and then let the subconscious do its work.
Right. There was a question that just popped up on the screen. Chanel, can you pop that back up for me? There we go. We have a listener asking, what kind of stone do you use, or do you find it matters?
Yeah, here's the secret to finding the right pendulum. Pick the pretty one.
Yeah, pick which one you're drawn to.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it's a rock on a string. I have plastic, I have glass, I have stone, I have wood, I've got copper. It doesn't matter. Let me hold it up if you can see this. I like this particular shape, and I like stones, but that's because I just like stone. But I like this because it has a point. And when I'm doing map dowsing, I can get real specific. And say, for example, if I'm looking for a missing person and I'm working, say, with a topological map, I can get down to, latitude and longitude to the size of roughly a football field.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
But that's what I use it for, and that's what works for me. If you're looking for a pendulum, I'll pick the pretty one.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Pick which one you're drawn to. I'm drawn to several. I probably have over 30 or 40 of them myself. It's whatever you feel like that day. You don't need that many. I could stop buying them.
Well, I walk by a display, and you hear, take me home.
Yeah, exactly. They do. They talk to you just like crystals do. I mean, that's just what they do. They're like, I need to be home with you. Take me. It's a thing. I think they're really interesting, and I think it's neat that you actually use them in the work that you guys do, because a lot of people don't use them anymore. They're kind of something that doesn't get used or taken seriously, I should say, even though they're very legitimate. So it's cool that you're doing that. And you both have co-written the books about them. Is that my understanding? Or Dan, did you write the Paranormal Pendulum books?
Yeah, well, George and I wrote Paranormal Pendulum 2, and I wrote 1 and 2, and I've written a book, a Psychic Detective Guidebook, which is all about pendulum dowsing, using it in psychic detecting. I've written a how-to guide. So.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, so this is the first of many co-authoring projects George and I'll be swinging the rock on.
How did you two meet?
George, it's your fault. You started it.
It seems like you have such a great relationship, and you guys are doing such good work together. There's got to be some history there.
Back in the day, and we won't necessarily go too far back in the day, but
once upon a time.
Yeah, once upon a time.
Yeah, computers were gasoline driven at that time.
Yeah. Shreveport had a weekly magazine, a newspaper, really. And I was the arts and culture reviewer, if you will. I had a column in each issue with, theater reviews, movie reviews, or whatnot. And Dan was a feature writer, and he was writing some pretty interesting stuff. And the editor just kind of came to me one day and said, George, you need to meet this Dan Baldwin character. He seems interesting. And he also went to Dan and said, I think you need to talk to this George dude. He's got some color. So we went out, had a beer, and hilarity ensued.
What a perfect way to start that beginning. To begin that beginning. That is so good. And now you both co-author several books together and separately, and you guys do all kinds of investigations. What kinds of things do you guys investigate?
Well, okay, I'll kick it off with the next project, which I can't tell you too much about yet because we're just in the early stages of investigation. But we've got so involved with the Lindsay case and making contact with ETs, and discovered it was, they're willing to talk. They're willing to ask questions. So we one of our investigations was out to a place called Poverty Point in Louisiana. It's a World Heritage Site. It goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And the light bulb went off one day and said, let's do a book about the sky people that all the Native Americans talk about. It's common around the world. The visitors from outer space or from the sky came down and gave us information. So George is over there in Louisiana in the heart of the mound building culture. I'm way out west in the heart of the cliff dwelling culture. So we're both conducting research about the sky people from two entirely different cultures. And we're really, the early result is really, really interesting. So we've got a long way to go, but that's the big co-author project right now.
Yeah, and there's no telling how that's going to unfold. Just as when we started investigating the Lindsay case, that thing just went into 1,000 different directions, and we really had to be disciplined to keep it focused on the Lindsay story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's incredible how this tool can come up with information that, hello, let's go a little further with it, and a little further, and a little further. It just keeps on going.
Yeah, you ask more questions, you receive more answers, or you don't and need to ask more questions.
Exactly.
But let's talk about go ahead, Dan.
No, I was just going to say, one of the things I like about it is the accuracy of the thing. If you do it right, it is extremely accurate. And that's not to say you're not going to get it wrong. I mean, if you have a head cold, you're going to have a bad day. If you've had a fight with your spouse, or you've been cut off in traffic and you're all buzzed up, you're going to have a bad day. But if you center yourself and do it right, the answers are accurate. And just to check that out, we would be working with, George and I would be working the pendulum. We'd have another pendulum dowser with us, or we'd have a medium or two mediums with us sometimes. And for example, George and I would sit basically back to back, and somebody else would ask the question, and the medium would say, would be facing in another direction. So the idea was to compare the answers to see if, for example, the medium was looking at Dan and seeing the pendulum, and that's how the medium was getting the answer, or if Dan was watching the medium's body language, and that's how I was getting the answer. So there was no way you could get any kind of, one person could influence the other. And consistently, we came up with the same answer all the time.
I like the teamwork efforts. Right. I think that's so important when you're looking for the validation, when you're seeking answers, especially the way that you guys set it up. That I've never heard of anyone doing it like that. That's pretty creative.
I'm going to lead into something. I'm going to let George take this, but George and I didn't set this up. You know where I'm going, George. But we had a hell of a team working with us on this project. It came out of the blue. I mean, George and I thought we would be doing this together. And then George has some friends over in Shreveport, Bossier City area, a couple of PhDs. He was just made contact with evidential medium, very, very talented medium. All of a sudden, he was telling them what they were doing. Well, we'd like to be involved with that. I'm doing a radio program with a friend of mine who I'd known since the 70s over in Shreveport, and we're doing the program. And during the break, he says, "Oh, by the way, yeah, I'm a pendulum dowser too. And my wife's a medium. Can we tag along?" So all of a sudden, George and I had this whole team of highly skilled, highly intelligent, and experienced people working with us. And only after we got into this, we realized that somebody else was pulling the strings. We had a stage manager, which is one of the chapters in the book. George?
Yeah, this investigation got really interesting right off the bat. In the first part of the investigations, this was during the winter of 2020, and it was kind of my norm to get up around dawn, and I would take a 3-mile walk just to kind of start the day. And I'd walk down to, in Bossier, it's called Mikewood Park. It's adjacent to the runway at Barksdale Air Force Base. And I was down there one near dawn, and it was cold, and the baseball field was all heavily frosted, and it looked really, really nice. So I took a picture of it with my iPhone, and I posted it on Facebook as a scene on this morning stroll, and got a couple of quick responses. George, wow, that looks just great, but what's with the blue tennis ball? And I said, what? So I went and looked at the picture again, and sure enough, hovering above the baseball field was a small, solid blue orb. And I said, oh, hell, I didn't see that, but the camera did. Well, that had to have been a lens flare because, the sun's starting to come up, so I didn't think too much of it. But the next day when I made this similar walk, I said, well, wait a minute. Let me just recreate that picture. I stopped at the same place, framed the picture in the same way, click, okay, fine, I don't see anything. Get back to the house. Well, what do we got? Oh, we got another orb there. And this just went on and on, not every morning walk, but just enough to where that this is not a coincidence. So I sent all the pictures I had over to Dan and asked him to take out that pendulum and see if you can make any sense of this. And Dan got back with me, and his findings were that the orb is a spirit. It is a spirit known to me, but not in this lifetime. And okay, where do we go with that? Well, I really haven't done any study on my previous lives or whatnot, but I had an inkling, if you will. I need to look at 19th century American actresses. So I got on the internet and just started going for 19th century actresses, and one name kept popping up, and that was Kate Bateman. Out of a theatrical family, the Bateman family. She was born in Baltimore in 1841, I believe. And so I was able to get some newspaper accounts from newspaper.com that tracked her on her various performances around the United States and her marriage to a Britishman, George Crowe, and her moving to London and being a hit on the London stage for much of her life. And I requested a formal session with our principal medium, who is an evidential medium, to see what she would pick up from Kate. I had all these photographs of orbs, and some of them were very consistent, very blue sparkle. We got a picture of it in the book. Very pretty orb. I never see them, but the camera and multiple cameras photograph it. And so I asked Colleen if there's anything there, and oh yes, Kate's very much here, and she's very much interested in what you guys are doing. Basically saying that we're all a part of the same team, and we've been doing this kind of stuff for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So then we started learning that Kate not only is acquainted with all of us, yours truly in particular, but yes, she's very familiar with Lindsay's situation, and the phrase that Colleen used was Kate is overlaid with Lindsay. So she knows all about Lindsay's history. And I have a suspicion that she is the one who kind of put the bug in Lindsay's ear. Now's the time to come out with this. And she probably put the bug in her ear. Well, you need to call Joe Beth, see if anybody else has got it. And that led, okay, call George. Okay, well, Dan. So there was a lot of method to the madness.
Yeah. More directions.
Definitely. And just as a check, ever since then, whenever I'm down at the park in a morning or afternoon stroll, I'll just go ahead and take a picture. And she continues to show up.
That's what I found fascinating about Lindsay's story, how she was not only having encounters with other individuals from other places, she was having spirit interactions as well, past life interactions as well. Like it just went every direction. And after you thought that was it, there was something else that came up with her.
Yeah, probably. I'm going to go back to Central Station. Lindsay, when Lindsay had that phone call out of the blue, she began telling her story when she was about 2.5, maybe pushing 3 years old. And this is a memory. This is a memory she has. And at this time, her father, who's a restaurateur in Shreveport, at that time, he had purchased a railroad station, Central Station in downtown Shreveport, turned the bottom half into a really nice restaurant. I went there a couple of times. And the family lived upstairs on the second floor. And when her parents were downstairs running the restaurant, Lindsay would be upstairs in her room. And there was just one sunny day, and Lindsay was just kind of bored with just being in her room. And so she wanted to go outside. And some folks walking into the restaurant from the outside suddenly noticed this little toddler walking around this second floor balcony. And they went inside and said, oh, there's a little kid up there walking around on your balcony. Of course, her parents run upstairs, and the very large, this is a railroad station, so they're floored windows. I mean, they're big, heavy suckers. But it was raised, and Lindsay had gone outside. So they brought Lindsay back in, managed to close the window. And of course, the obvious question, there's nobody else up there other than her younger sister who's in the next room in a crib. How did this window get open? And Lindsay says, well, my friend Morlock opened it for me. And that was a moment, because the window had been opened. Mm-hmm. And there's no way Lindsay's going to open that window. Yet there it is. So that started a search for who is her friend Morlock. And in our early part of our investigations, we had some sessions down at the railroad station as it is today. That was some time ago when she was that young. But we were able to determine who that spirit was, who was kind of keeping an eye on young Lindsay. And so it just demonstrates that from a very young age, she's had interactions with the spirit world.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I remember hearing you guys talk about this a while ago when I had caught you on another podcast, how she even was able to somewhat describe what Morlock looked like to her father. Yeah. In fact,
this is where we learned, she described at that time, she's 2.5, 3 years old, and her father asked, well, what does he look like?
That's why I said somewhat to
he's about your height, and he's thin, and her father smoked cigarettes at the time, and she was trying to figure out how to describe what Morlock was smoking, because she didn't know anything about cigars, but he was smoking cigars, and they finally determined that's what it was. And curiously, her father was okay. There were certain sections of the train station at that time where there would be the aroma of cigar smoke. And of course, there was no cigar smoking in the restaurant. But that description fit a man who was president of one of the railroad companies that was operating out of that station back in the 1950s. Her father, as a child, had a great interest in trains. He spent a lot of time down there. So he was acquainted with this individual. And that was his description. And Pete Couch was his name. And so Joe thought that this may very well have been Pete Couch acting in the role of Lindsay's Morlock. Again, it makes sense. Okay, he's a railroad guy. This is where he did a lot of his work. So it's probably a happy place, for Pete to hang around. So it may be something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it gets even more interesting than that. Yeah, Pete Couch was a friend of Lindsay's father. Not of her earth father, of her father from the 1800s.
Okay, how did you connect
this
those
dots? This is where reincarnation gets in. Lindsay, her sister, and her dad, this plane, are the reincarnation of a family, the Woodward family that was alive and well in Shreveport, Louisiana in the 19th century. They were alive together then. They have reincarnated now. And Pete Couch was a friend of her father from that era. So our abduction story has moved into the spirit world all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And tracking down Morlock, that was quite a detective story in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me set that up, and I'll turn it over to you the cemetery, Dan. But while we were getting material for Dan's Paranormal Pendulum Book 2, we were downtown Shreveport, and I just had a thought, Dan, we're not too far away from Central Station, even though it's raining and the building's closed. Let's just go by there and see if anybody's present, because there's a story I would like to see if it is true. So we went by there, and Pendleton says, yes, there's people here. And so I recount the story, as I told you, and ask, well, is this story true? Yes. Okay. Is the spirit who manipulated the window and that Lindsay calls Morlock, is that spirit present? Yes. By chance, are you buried in Oakland Cemetery? Oh, Shreveport's oldest cemetery. Yes. Well, Dan and I are going to go there this afternoon, and would you be willing to direct us to your final resting place? Yes. So there we go, Dan.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So, in this case, we a lot of what George and I at the time thought were random actions, like let's go by Central Station and just do a reading. We're in the neighborhood, or I would go, let's go by the old Caddo Indian place and just do a reading. Kate was, behind the scenes on all of that. So George and I go to Oakland Cemetery, do the pendulum thing. Is the spirit we spoke with this morning here? Got a yes. Would you guide us to your gravesite? And using the pendulum, you use yes and no questions. Should we go north, south, east, or west? Yeah, get a direction. Should we go 100 feet, 100 paces? Yes or no. Should we go 50 paces? And you go to that point. Then you go, do I go north, south, east, or west? Yes or no. Do I go 25 paces? We ended up at a grave, and it was about the name of the man was Pennick, which wasn't the name of the guy we had been talking to. We had been passed off to another spirit, Mr. Pennick, who showed up later in some later researches. But Pennick took us on a tour of the cemetery again. North, south, east, or west, 100 paces, 50 paces, 25 paces. We zigzagged all the way through the cemetery, got up to the top of it, to a rather prominent family grave site. You had the iron fence around it, and you had the old, beautiful gravestones from the 1800s, just nicely worked stone. And it was the Woodworth, W.D. Woodworth family. And we started brought out the pendulum, started doing our work. And that's how we discovered that W.D. Woodworth is reincarnated today as Lindsay's father today. Lindsay is reincarnated as his daughter, Sally Murph Woodworth, from that day.
As is the other sister.
Melissa, right.
Yeah, Melissa.
So all of a sudden.
It was Mabel Woodworth.
Mabel Woodworth. So all of a sudden, again, the alien abduction thing has now got us involved in the spirit world. And we're tracking this family, through history. And we did research, and W.D. Woodworth kind of became kind of a buddy with George and me. He was a rounder.
He is a character.
He was an Irish immigrant, fought in the Navy, U.S. Navy in the Civil War, fought in the Army out west, was wounded out west, came back here, was something of a rounder. His wife would take out ads. I am not responsible for my husband's drinking debts. And WD would take out another ad. I am not responsible for my wife. That type of thing. And WD kept popping up in different searches. I think he kind of just like hanging around with me and George.
Well, he was also showing some stuff too, because we learned from the get-go with Morlock that they can manipulate physical objects. I mean, that window was raised. Okay, It was raised.
It's a heavy window.
Yeah, and in the course of our investigation of the Woodworth family, and particularly their relationship to Lindsay now and Lindsay then, we were at Spring Street Museum, which is Shreveport's historical museum, and we were conducting a session with one of the brothers who founded that particular building. They were very prominent back in the 19th century, and they are very active there today. Almost everybody who goes there who's any kind of a sensitive will pick up that, yes, these one or two of these brothers are here a lot. They just really love the building. They love what's going on with it. So we were having a conversation with, his name was Ben, because he knew WD in his physical lifetime. And I was trying to get information about WD's wife, Eugenia, because I kind of thought that maybe Lindsay might have been WD's wife. We were kind of trying to figure out what the relationships were. So I was asking a bunch of information about what was the color of her hair, was she short, did she have played musical, and just all that kind of stuff. And that evening, Dan and I are playing back the recording. We record everything we do. And okay, we're going through the question and answer, yes, no. And then all of a sudden, there's a very firm male voice. Lindsay is key. Whoa, hello. That's a Class A EVP. There's no two ways about that one. We replayed it half a dozen times at least because it was just, Lindsay is key. Whoa. And then it got interesting. Dan goes back to Arizona, and a couple of weeks later, he's in the process of doing the transcript from that particular session, and there's no Lindsay is key. The EVP is not there.
It's disappeared.
Completely disappeared.
And when next Dan was in Shreveport, we were conducting another round of research. We went out to WD's homestead, if you will, where his house was at that time, which is a vacant lot now. And WD, did you put in that EVP, Lindsay's key? Yes. Did you remove it? Yes. So I think he was just showing us another skill set that is available to them on that side, so to speak, because this is digital recording, and it was put in there. Lindsay's key, no question about it. Dan and I both heard it, and it was clearly removed.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard
And
of
why?
that.
Why so? Why do you feel like it was removed?
I think he was just
that George is right. I think he's just showing us what he can do.
It's really interesting how much Spirit wants to communicate with us.
Oh, they love to talk.
They do, right? They do. And
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh, go ahead, Dan.
No, I was
Show's all
going to say, one of the approaches that George and I take in these cases is, and I use this phrase a lot, but when you're going into a haunted house, you're still going into somebody's house.
Absolutely.
When you're going into a haunted ranch or an old ranch house, you're still going into a place where somebody lived or where they worked. You don't go in saying, I demand that you speak to me. Tell me, I defy you to blah, 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 blah. You go in, you introduce yourself. You say, hello, this is George. I'm Dan. If there's anybody here, we would love to talk to you. We're here out of respect and courtesy. And if you would like to tell your story, we would like to hear it. And then we start the pendulum work, and then we start the recording. And I think it's just the fact that we show basic courtesy and basic respect. We get a lot of positive response. I mean, if somebody shows up at your house and starts demanding things, you're not going to want to talk to them. But if they knock on the door, introduce themselves, say, I'm here to talk about you and your story. Would you talk to me? Sure.
Yeah, it is a respect thing, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've never understood the shows that you see on TV where they go in and they aggravate Spirit the way that they do. It makes me
That's
really
not us. That's not us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you aggravate somebody, you're going to get aggravation back.
Right.
Well, we get good results because we go in expecting good results.
Yeah, it's all about the intention for sure.
Well, yeah, one thing, if you're in a haunted house and you're expecting something negative and you hear 3 knocks, that's demonic. Or if you're like me, I go, hey, somebody just thumped my hat 3 times. Who is that? Wow, George, come here. Somebody thumped my hat.
It's definitely up for interpretation.
Exactly. So, we're not looking for negativity, and so far we haven't run into any of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you haven't, because your intentions are on the light side of things. You're really wanting to connect with Spirit and even assist them. And so you're going to receive positive energy when you send that positive energy out there.
Yeah, it's a very, borrowing your terminology, it's a very heavy subject, but we take a light approach to it.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's great. So we obviously skipped the first commercial because we missed some time with you guys, but we are at the top of the hour and we must take this break and give some time to our sponsors. So we're going to do that. And when we get back, we'll have another hour together commercial free I have so many questions.
Wonderful.
We have some stories.
I know, and I love it. Story time is my favorite. This is why we wander. So stay close, guys. We'll be right back.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Are we alone in the universe? The most important question facing humanity is on the verge of being settled once and for all. The Mutual UFO Network has been at the forefront of this journey for nearly 50 years. Our members worldwide are dedicated to the research, documentation, and awareness that will shape the future of humanity. Won't you join us?
It's not just a donation.
It's a warm blanket.
It's a bottle of clean water.
It's a roof and a bed.
It's knowing someone cares.
It's feeling safe.
It's a today that's better than yesterday.
Every dollar you can spare helps so much more than you can imagine. Please, donate now to help people affected by Hurricane Ian. Your support is urgently needed.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soul Wanderings. We are heard here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. That's kgradb.com, where you can go over and check out the network. There are so many good shows for you to peruse, all different kinds of topics, anomalous topics, all of those questions that you have about life and the things that are going on all around us. There's a show for that. So head over to kgradb.com and also check out the members area. There are tons of things behind the scenes that we don't show out in the front for everyone. That's part of being a member. You get the good, extra good stuff. There's good stuff in front and there's good stuff in back. If you are interested in signing up for that annual membership, you can use my promo code SOUL21, SOUL21, and that gives you the opportunity to receive 30% off of your annual membership. So I encourage you to do that so you don't miss out. We like good stories, George and Dan. That's why we have you here. Welcome back, guys.
Glad to be back. This is fun.
I would hope that you're having a good time because
Oh, yeah.
I imagine you get to tell your stories over and over and over. And I think that there's something to be said about someone who does that. They're obviously passionate about what they're doing. They want to share the stories, even if it's continuously. And you guys do that. And I think
that is the real impetus. I mean, Georgia and I are obviously fascinated by this subject, but Lindsay's a special case.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because it does go in so many directions. And I'm just curious how you guys pieced everything together, and if you're still currently working on it, and how everything is linked, and why is it revolving around Lindsay?
Well, yeah, this starts. All right, let me go way back. From what we have found, and keep in mind, Georgia and I are reporters. I mean, we're just passing along the people we have interviewed. It just happens that the people we've interviewed are from outer space or another dimension, or they are deceased. But about 6,000 years ago, the spirit that is now Lindsay Higgins, on some astral realm, made an agreement with a higher evolved spiritually, that she would reincarnate as a human throughout history, over and over and over and over again, with the purpose of over the long term helping the Homo sapiens evolve. We think probably mostly along the lines of psychic ability, and that this is an agreement she made a long time ago. Somewhere in there, we don't know where Georgia and I got involved. Somewhere in there, but we do know we definitely got involved in this life at this time.
Yeah.
And the impetus behind this book really is to tell her story and to reach out to people, because I know there are people in your audience right now who have had these experiences, and they're scared, or they're shy, or they're afraid of coming out. And part of the reason for writing this book is to say, you're not alone. You're not alone out there. You're not the only one this is happening to. It's happening to a lot of people a lot of times, and it's okay to find somebody you can talk about, whether it's your preacher, your priest, your best friend, your brother-in-law, psychiatrist, the guy down the street, your bartender, whatever. It's okay to talk about it and get your story out there, because there are other people you can connect with. You're not alone.
Yeah, and that particular finding was very important for Lindsay, because this is we pretty well established that whatever incarnation she was in, these kind of activities were going to be a part of it, and that just seemed to be a recurring pattern. And the individual, the ET, who was most associated with what was going on with Lindsay, we were able to call him ET just to be simplistic. But that was the individual that Dan referred to 6,000 years ago, who invited Lindsay to be a part of a long-term project that would need a part of a physical reincarnated component in order to further develop certain developments with Homo sapiens, principally, I think, in lifespan development and, of course, psychic ability. And it also had some benefit for other species as well. And once Lindsay realized that this was a long-term process, and she agreed to it, and her response is, well, if I agreed to it, then of course I'm going to do it. And in the present situation, what kind of brought all the focus to this was a lot of pain and discomfort that she was associated with these visitations going back to her childhood. No medical explanations for them, none whatsoever. But there was some kind of association. And at one session, when Lindsay was saying, okay, this is going to continue, however, let's lose the pain and discomfort. And so she made a specific request to this entity, ET, and the team that works with her. Whatever is going to happen, there will be no associated pain or discomfort. And they said, oh, of course. And it turned out that some of the characters involved were not aware that she was having physical discomfort. So that was kind of a two-way learning moment. And Lindsay has reported since that time that she has had some visitations, and she knows that because of some marks that are left as kind of a little calling card. We were here, and she did not recall any physical discomfort. So apparently that is holding. So that was something that came out of the research that nobody was expecting, but it was of great reassurance to Lindsay, because it showed that she was playing a conscious part of this process rather than just being an absolute, victim, which is what the abductions are usually presented as. I don't like the word abductions because it has that connotation, and I doubt seriously that they're just one-off events. That just doesn't fit.
You feel like someone who has oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
No, that's just another example of how you can use pendulum dowsing for extended conversations.
Mm-hmm.
That agreement came out of a very long session with me and George and Lindsay and the
several
ET.
others.
Yeah, several others, back and forth. It was a legitimate conversation. And it's, the fact that the events continue without the pain is proof that the communication is two-way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's neat that you're able to have that communication. I don't know how many people actually stop and try to communicate because they're either afraid or they shut down because it's traumatic or whatever the reason is. But the fact that you're communicating and receiving some answers is really neat. But do you feel like when someone is, and I'm going to say abducted, even though you don't prefer that, George, just for a lack of a better word at this time, but do you feel like once somebody has an experience like that they'll continuously, or they have always had those experiences in their lifetime?
I would heavily lean towards that they're not just one-time events. Okay, they may not be frequent, they may be infrequent, but there's going to be some sort of purpose, and there's going to be a reason and a rhyme for it. I'm pretty comfortable with that view. Yeah. Now, the individual may be clueless, and it could be interpreted as very frightening, disturbing, and certainly unwelcome. But a broader picture, a larger perspective may help soften that and say, oh, okay, so that's what's going on. And part of that, of course, would require an acceptance of multiple layers of life, physical and non-physical. If you cannot grasp a life without a physical body, then if anything like this does happen, you're really going to be clueless. And I can see how that could be particularly frightening.
Yeah.
But you have that higher awareness, and okay, we got some perspective here. And they will communicate. What
kind of physical pain was Lindsay going through, and why would she have the physical pain?
The physical pain, and this started out when she was young, maybe like 8 or 9, abdominal pain, just very intense. I mean, to the point where parents rush her off to the hospital. She stays in a couple of days. They do every test they can imagine to find what is causing this intense discomfort, because she's clearly in pain. And nothing. There's absolutely nothing diagnosable. And at that time, the attending physicians just said, well, her mother's dying of cancer, so she's just doing this just to get attention. Of course, that was ludicrous. But the pain, and we recount this in some flashback episodes that she had for the book, where she would flash back to an episode 10 years earlier, and she would physically relive that pain associated with whatever was being done. A lot of this was physical, and a lot of it does kind of follow what your typical abduction would consist of. A lot of times it's something totally different, but definitely there wasn't associated pain and discomfort, and that's I think one of the reasons Lindsay's kind of reached that point. I got to just get this out. I got to get some relief in some form or fashion.
When did she come out with her story? How long ago was that?
Well, she we got the date in the book.
Oh, it's fine. Just an approximate.
September 2017.
Okay.
So this is all fairly recent.
Yeah, definitely. I think once you're going through a lifetime of experiences like that, and we're in the world that we live in now where we talk about it easier, there's no reason not to come out and share it. Not to share that experience with somebody else and really work through it, because it's so big and so traumatic. Like, you can't keep that stuff inside of you.
And what we're also finding is that there are a lot more people who are having these experiences than you would imagine. And
because we're talking about it.
Yeah, they're becoming more aware of just how broad this interaction is. So there's a whole lot of that going on, which makes it easier to learn more about, well, what is really happening.
Right, because the conversations are happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I ran into something. In fact, I run into this a lot. It applies not only to the ETs, but to the spirit world. But I will do a presentation on what George and I are doing. Inevitably I run into somebody. Well, I don't believe in ghosts. Listen, once I was in my grandmama's kitchen. I swear I saw her cooking a pot of beans. I swear, don't tell anybody. That happens a lot.
A whole lot of that.
Oh, why do you think we're so afraid to talk about it?
It's a belief system. If for so many years, I mean, and it's true today. If you come out and say you saw a UFO, well, you're crazy, man. You're out of your mind. The public ridicule. George and I know people who university trained people who, if a UFO came down and landed in their driveway, and they looked out the window and went outside and stood in front of it, they would not see a UFO. They would see a Volkswagen bus, because their belief system would not allow them to accept the fact that there's a UFO in my driveway.
Yeah, and that's why I'm always saying it's always up for perspective, because everyone's going to see an apple a different way. You just never know what they're thinking or what it looks like.
But the way to handle it just is, accept what's happening, accept what's going on. Hey, there's a UFO in my front yard. Let me go see what's going on. Mm-hmm. In fact, George, speaking of front yards, George has an interesting story about that.
I have to say, George, I really like your laugh.
I like to laugh.
I can tell. That's good.
Okay, Dan's forcing a lead in here that actually will cover a lot of territory. About halfway through this research period, I was really noticing just how everything was really just clicking. I mean, the right people coming together at the right time. Somebody at a session would be inspired to ask the question Dan and I would never think to ask that needed to be asked. It was just uncanny, and particularly with our conversations with ET, which was who knew that we'd be having that conversation and learning so much from that angle. Mm-hmm. And it was just coming together just so perfectly that the skeptic in George kind of kicked out to, wait a minute, this may be too easy. I mean, it may be possible that somehow Dan and I are truly projecting what we would really want to occur, and we might unconsciously be affecting, the outcomes here. So I was a little concerned about that. So that's what I went to sleep with. Get up the next morning. This is December 28th. 2020, it's 7 a.m., not quite dawn. So I get up bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, go in the front room, open up the blinds, and looking out the window, hovering above my neighbor's house is a 20-foot diameter yellow orangish sphere. And it's just hovering there. And I'm observing the heck out of this thing. I can see the pre-dawn rays in the distance from the soon-to-rise sun. I look down at the street light that's at that corner, and we got a light pollution bulb in it, so it's kind of a yellowish orange color, very similar to the sphere. Sphere's a little more orangey. Then I noticed that the circumference of the sphere is active. It's kind of like a painter might feather in a painting. It doesn't have a hard edge. It's got a kind of a feathery edge, and there's a little bit of energy to it. It's fascinating to watch. Wow. So I'm just observing the heck out of this, and it didn't pop in, pop out. I mean, it's just there. The phrase, although it has a negative connotation, is this is in your face. Okay, there was nothing negative about it. It was, George, you had some questions last night. Well, here's your answer, pal. It's real, and we're in your face.
Yeah.
Now, the second part, that was just the first part. The second part is, well, okay, particularly with all the research going on, and there it is. What would George do? Well, you think, open the front door, run outside on the front porch and look at that thing directly, go grab the iPhone and get a picture of it. George decided to go feed the cats, make a cup of coffee.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Walk back by the window, and it's gone. And once I realized it was gone, it was kind of click. Oh, okay. Now I get the second part of this demonstration. There's a term that some of your listeners may know. It's called alien apathy. And it's used to describe what just occurred to me. When somebody has an encounter of some sort and their reaction to it is different from what they would expect or others would have expected. That'd be I go feed the cats. Yeah, maybe later. No, I'm going to get a picture of this thing. That thought never even came near my mind. And what they were showing was the subtlety of their communications. And I won't say it's controlling. I would say it's influencing. But it is so, so sublime. And it wasn't until it was over that I was aware that, whoa, hello, okay. And that evening, when I'm going over this occurrence, because this, there's no way to, at 7 a.m., there really aren't too many other variables. And yes, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a wonderful phrase that kind of came to me, and I think it was deliberate, to describe this whole occurrence. And it was diplomatic reveal. And you think about those two words, and that beautifully describes what I had experienced. It was diplomatic, and it was a revelation. And then I had a lot more confidence in what we were doing and where we were going, because it was in my face.
It was in your face. Yes, it was. I wonder how much they have the effect on us when they come to visit for us to act or react in a certain way. For you to just see that the flying object was there, and then you just carried on with your life and business just like normal. I wonder how many people have those experiences and it just doesn't click for them.
I would say a lot of people. You see a light moving in the sky. I live in an area with a lot of jets and a lot of planes flying over, so I get to observe a lot of aircraft day and night. And a lot of times at night, especially, if you'll observe a light moving in the sky, mm-hmm. It's a jet. And 99 times out of 10, it's a jet. You don't pay much attention to it. But sometimes, I'll watch a light, and all of a sudden, it'll start exhibiting non-ballistic motion, and that's not a jet. Mm. And it'll start zigzagging around all over the place, and then zip off. Well, most people who saw that would just say, "Well, that's an anomaly." Because they don't want to face the fact that they have just seen something otherworldly.
Right. You're probably correct in that. And also, I know when I've gone to different conventions, mm-hmm. like UFO conventions and places like that, where people will come up and share their story, and you ask them, well, did you take a picture or did you take video? And they say, no, I didn't even think about it in that moment.
Yep.
Which, when you're not in that moment, your logical brain says, if this happens, I'm going to make sure I'm taking a photo or a video for proof. But in the moment, it's not even in your vision to do so. What's that, George?
I would just say, unless there is the subtle thought that no pictures allowed.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm wondering. If they have some kind of...
No, what I was about to say, that's exactly what happened. I do something. I'm way out in the West, and when I go camping, I can go places where there's nobody for miles, where I've got unobstructed views for 100 miles, clear skies. And I will go out and I will use a technique. I will meditate on making contact. I will send out telepathic, basically a friendly request for contact. And, 5 times out of 5, I've got something really, really, really interesting occur that night. And one night I had done that, and I was overlooking the Navajo reservation, and the area I was looking over there were no roads, there was no traffic, there was no towns, there were no farms, nothing, pure black and darkness. And I was waiting and nothing showed up. I said, well, all right, struck out, crawled into my cot, went to sleep. About 1 a.m. in the morning, I just popped out of bed, wide awake, sat up, and there was, much like George's globe, there was a globe over the horizon, big, bright, yellow moon-shaped globe. And the moon had set, hours and hours and hours earlier. So I sat up, watched it, got off my cot, ran around to the side of my truck, watched it some more. And it was just a huge globe the size of a full moon hanging above the reservation. There's no way it could have been an aircraft of any kind or any lights from a town or a searchlight or anything. And I said, I'm going to take a picture of this. Poof.
And it was
It
gone.
was gone. It didn't fly away. It didn't float away. It didn't dissipate. It was gone. So I don't know if there's a connection or not, but maybe they didn't want their picture taken.
Well, it's interesting, Dan, because Carl Jung studied UFOs as part of his interest area. And one thing that he commented on was, well, they're camera shy.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of funny to think about. They don't want their photos taken, but they do want to communicate with us.
well, but on the other hand, sometimes they will use the photographs to communicate because not always, but very often on my little strolls, which I still continue, get that little spot in Michelwood Park. We're going to take a picture, see what's there. And more of late, what is appearing in the photograph is an object in the sky. And it's not a bird, and it's not a conventional craft. It could be something large way off or something small very closer, but the shapes change. I've got dozens of these photographs. I don't see it, but the camera will.
Right.
And part of the research we were doing for the Lindsay thing was focusing on that particular location because that's so much happens there.
Mm-hmm.
And we got information that this is a location of a portal in this area, and that it was constructed in the late 19th century, anticipating observing more closely human beings taking flight.
Mm-hmm.
And presumably there was a future awareness that there will also be a major air base here at some point. Now, curiously, in South Shreveport, where Lindsay grew up, where the family has property, and this is where she had a lot of her sightings and encounters and all events.
Yes, I wanted to talk about the land she lives on.
Yeah,
And that's a story.
Yeah, we were able to determine that there is a portal there in that area. And that was the source of so many of the things that she was witnessing. They were coming through the portal or they were exiting the other way. That portal, from the information given us, that point in space had been there and available as a portal before the Earth was formed. So whatever it is, it's old, based on the comparison with the one over by Barksdale that's supposedly, a little over 100 years old. But interesting. The land was once populated by Caddo Indians. And the reason that was a particular important land for these people back in history, there's a freshwater spring on the property. And when her father had a geologist landman come out and just kind of give him the history of the high ground and the spring, he said, well, this spring's been here for at least 100,000 years. So this is old high ground with freshwater spring that we know was inhabited by the Caddo Indians. And one reason we attribute Lindsay having psychic abilities, not only was she seeing the ETs and the shadow people and, you might say the gray types of, she was also seeing spirits on the property. And we were able to determine with the pendulum that what she was seeing was the spirits of 3 to 6 Caddo Indians who were remaining on the property. They weren't trapped there, but for whatever reason, that was important.
They were there by choice.
Yeah. Take it over, Dan. That's where you.
No, it's that place has an interesting history. You've got the shadow people, you've got the Greys, you've got UFOs, you've got a portal, and now we've got Caddo Native American spirits there. Back in the early 1800s, you've heard of the New Madrid earthquake. It was a massive earthquake in the southeastern United States. It actually caused the current of the Mississippi to reverse itself for a while. It was just an enormous earthquake. But apparently the gods, or perhaps the sky people, came down to the Caddo Indians chief, who was up in northern Louisiana, and said, you need to leave this place. The water is going to turn bad here. You need to go south to the area which is now Shreveport, Louisiana. You need to go down there and find good water, which is, Lindsay's property now. So the Indians moved down there when the quake hit and muddied up the water up in North Louisiana. The tribe, having moved down to what is now South Shreveport, had good, clean water. They survived and thrived. When the Indians moved on, 6 of the spirits decided to stay there because, again, like George said, they're not trapped. They're responsible for the land. They feel responsible for taking care of it. Mm-hmm. And in our conversation with them, we discussed, why didn't you cross over? And they said, well, we're responsible for the land. So we discussed it with them, and 3 of them decided that, they could cross on over. We talked to them. We said, this is Lindsay. This is her dad. They own the property. They respect the property. Joe was going to take care of the property. And, Joe, Lindsay's father, the landowner, was going, I'm going to take care of the property. Don't worry about it. So when we left, 3 of them had decided to cross over. And 3 of them had decided to, stay with the deal. And as we were leaving, we had a medium with us. And she said, oh, look. She pointed back to where we had just left. She said, the 3 Indians, they're waving bye-bye at us.
They're like, see you later. Peace out.
Exactly. All is well. We're all friends. But again, at that one spot, you've got Native American, you got the spirit world, you've got the portals, you've got the grays, you've got spirit people, shadow people, UFOs. Everything is there.
Why do you think they're all together? Do you think they work together? They coincide together? Like, what's the connection with all of the beings?
Okay, well, I think they all work together sometimes. I don't think they all work together all of the time. I think it's like the team that assembled around me and George. When a need arises, people, spirits, or whatever show up to take care of the problem. Of course, you have spirits like Kate Bateman who are busy pulling strings also.
There's that laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Kate Bateman.
But that's just an example of where things came together for a specific task, and they're all working together. The Lindsay Higgins case is a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, she has so many interactions with different beings in her lifetime. Sometimes someone will have experiences one or the other, but it's not very often you hear them working all together in a lifetime.
People may be having these multiple experiences. They're just not necessarily cognizant of them.
Why would you say that?
Lindsay, I think because of Lindsay's psychic abilities, she has a greater perspective, and she can appreciate more of what's going on around her, where somebody who doesn't have that might be a little too narrow.
Yeah, let me give another example of some people just can't handle thinking about it. I've done a lot of work, again, with the missing person, with a lot of police people, a lot of policemen, deputy sheriffs, people like that. And I've had cops tell me, I don't believe in the psychic stuff. I don't believe in the psychic business. And I would come back, well, do you believe in cop instinct? When you walk up to a closed door, do you have an instinct that maybe you shouldn't open it, or maybe you should stand back when you open it? And they go, oh, yeah. I said, and that's not psychic ability? Oh. Let me think about that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, they may even employ the ability, like the cops employ cop intuition all the time. They may not realize what it is that they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and so much conditioning, right? And we all get, we just get in our ways, and we just don't understand that there's so much more to this life than just existing here as a human being.
Yeah. Well, yes.
A lot of us
can't
do the autopilot in life. It's not for me, but it's fun to witness them be zombies. And I don't mean that in a bad way. We're in our own, each of us are in our own places, right? We all have a purpose in this life. But when you're someone who can see or feel or have these experiences, and then you see the people who aren't, for me, I wish I could shake them awake, but it's not my place to do that, right? That's their experience and they're meant to have what they're having. But there's just so much more to just being a human. There are things happening all around us if we literally just paused and took a look around.
Yeah, I told a good friend of mine one day, I said, you have no idea what your belief system is costing you. You have no concept of what you're missing out on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if they're not ready to accept it, they're not ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, maybe not in this lifetime, right? That's just just what's meant for them right now. Before we continue, I just want to make sure that everyone that's hanging out with us is checking out your guys' websites. So for Dan, his is danbaldwin.com. And then George, yours is your name also, right? George Sewell?
Yeah, just be sure you put in the middle initial E.
Okay.
George E. Sewell.
Oh, I didn't even notice the extra.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll go to New York and some artist guy. He's a cool fellow, I'm sure, but he ain't me.
Nope, he's not you. And it's also for those of you who are watching us on video, the websites are being flashed on the screen thanks to our producer, Chanel, because you guys have good stuff on there. You're up to a lot of really interesting things. And you both have written several books. Awesome. What's been your favorite book you've co-written?
The one we're working on now.
What's that one called?
Well, working title is Paranormal Pendulum 4. It's the book about the sky people.
It's 4. Okay.
What we're discussing is Paranormal Pendulum Book 3.
Right. That's the one you keep referring to.
Yeah. Once I finished a book, it's out of my mind and I'm on to the next one. So the favorite is always the next book.
You guys have a lot of books between the two of you.
I'm up to almost 100.
Okay, I don't have that list. I have a big list, but I didn't know you had that many.
Well, most of them have somebody else's name on the cover. So.
Oh, right, because the ghost writing.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I've got probably 25 or 30 under my name.
Oh my goodness, that's quite a feat. Quite a feat. So with all of the things that you both research and investigate, what's your favorite topic?
This.
All of the things that we're talking about tonight?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You become quite passionate about it once you start connecting the dots, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. Yeah. What's been one of your most memorable experiences you've had on an investigation?
You want to go first, George, or?
It's hard to top opening up your window, looking across the street and seeing a 20-foot diameter sphere hovering in the sky. And it just stays there. It wants to be studied, but it will not be touched or photographed.
I want to know, how does someone manifest something like that? I live in Utah. We have a lot of activity here. I live literally in the backyard of Hill Air Force Base, and my living room windows overlook one of the landing strips. And so I see jets fly in and out all day and lately all night. But there have been a couple of times where I've seen something else and I'm not quite sure what it is. It just, after seeing jets over and over, it's a different shape. It's a different speed. It's just different altogether. So I'm not sure what that is. I haven't put a name to it, but I've gone out into the middle of the desert with my dad. We would go out to the West Desert, and just like you, Dan, nothing around for miles and miles and miles. The sky is pitch black with a million stars, no light pollution whatsoever, but you can't see 10, 20 feet in front of you. It's dark. And I've always sat there just like, please, I want to see you. I want to communicate with you, however that looks like in that conversation at that moment. And nothing has ever happened. But I'm wondering, for those who would like a vision or a communication, is that something that we could manifest?
Yeah, let me toss this in real quick. That the globe I told you about that I saw on the camping trip.
Mm-hmm.
That was in Utah, up on the Cedar, where Cedar Mesa is, southern Utah,
Mm-hmm.
right above the Arizona state line. That's
Yep.
where I was camping in Utah when I saw that. And again, every time that I have seriously set out, I don't think we can manifest them. I think they can respond to a request. Let me put it that way. But every time I've meditated seriously about making contact and then made a serious telepathic attempt in good spirit, I mean, friendship messages and everything and requests, on those trips, I'm 5 for 5 with dramatic results.
Wow.
Like that globe. But I don't think I'm manifesting. I think I'm getting a response. So yeah, let's show up for Dan.
Yeah. I mean, manifesting probably was not the best word, but yes, exactly. That's so good. Thank you. What about you, George?
Kind of like with Dan, things keep showing up in my photographs. I don't see them, but the iPhone does.
There they are.
And I think what's happening is they're letting us know that, okay, that was a good book. Now here's the next one.
Yeah. Where do you see the future of our relationships with other life forms from other places?
Much more robust.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We're definitely trying to make it more robust.
Yeah, it's best I can determine with respect to Lindsay's long-term project. I think the end result, the information we've gleaned that I'm kind of playing with a bit, but it appears that one of the end results of that process, which may be soon, is to pretty much give the average human being a lifespan of 150 years and really reawaken the sixth sense. So there's a much more active interplay with the other dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And take those two factors and give it a generation or two, and this is a totally different planet.
Yeah, I would like to hope that it's going to be in my lifetime, but I don't feel like that's necessarily the case. I feel like we're evolving. I don't know, maybe slower than we had hoped for or anticipated.
Let me give you an example, AJ, about the interaction. Which there was a session that Dan and I were having with Lindsay, where she was asking questions and we were, of course, asking questions. But at the same time, we were using a pendulum to carry on a conversation with the spirit of Sally Murph Woodward, which was Lindsay's previous incarnation as spirit. So here we are talking with physical Lindsay, and at the same time, we're having conversation with a part of Lindsay's soul as it was after her lifetime as Sally Murph.
Wow.
And that added a dimension that, whoa, hello, this is getting kind of fun. So it may be more interaction like that, maybe without the need of a pendulum. Even the pendulum is just a focus mechanism. You can develop the focus without the mechanism, and sure, you'll get the same communications.
Right. Lindsay also, I remember watching, I should have watched it before this tonight to refresh my memory, but when I watched it, it was a while ago, but I remember something about her having all kinds of fertility issues because of a possible experience she had.
It reached a point where Lindsay had a hysterectomy, and basically the physician said, "You've got it all." Mm-hmm. I mean, just about everything that could go wrong with the female reproductive system that was there.
Mm-hmm.
And now how that was the case, we don't know, but that's what Lindsay reported.
Does she have any recollection or any idea of anything that had happened to her while she was not with here? Like while she was, I don't want to say abducted. I'm trying to find other words because you don't like that word.
Okay, you're leading up to the hybrid children.
I would like to know about the hybrid.
And according to her Aunt Belle, who was her favorite aunt, and of course aunts Aunt Belle's in spirit, and we did a lot of conversing with Aunt Belle. And Lindsay had that suspicion, and Aunt Belle confirmed it. Yes, you have 2 hybrid children, and you have met them, but you didn't know that you met them. So that whole process that's legion in the abduction literature of the removal or the implant of the fertilized ova, and then the removal of the zygote, and they're putting it back in a physical body, and 90 days later you got to get it back out, and then boom, then it continues growth somewhere else. That process seems to have occurred, and she does have a memory of a long needle-like object being placed in her.
Mm-hmm. I would feel like that would be pretty traumatic.
Oh yeah.
And when she was sharing her story, you could feel her emotions so deeply. You could tell her story was authentic, and it wasn't just made up. You could really feel like when someone shares their story, sometimes they'll cry a lot. She wasn't crying. She still was living in that energy. It was
if you sit down and have a conversation with her, there's no doubt in your mind, she's 100% legit. There's no doubt whatsoever.
Yeah. I felt that. Just in those 20, 30 minutes of that episode, and it stuck with me. And that's why when you guys came across with Michelle, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Because I remember this story, and I hear so many stories. I don't remember them all, but
yeah, well, Lindsay's very articulate, clearly. So, I mean, she can describe what has occurred very accurately and very passionately. But it's always the same. As long as Dan and I have known her, what she's talking about, it does not vary one iota. So most of these are memories. There are some that are powerful dreams. And she did have a couple of flashback experiences that we do record in the book. So those are the 3 main ways that she recalls what has occurred. We did not use any hypnosis. She didn't want to go there. I would not recommend her doing that at this stage. Dan's a certified hypnotist. That's a tool that's available. We may get into that this next book. Who knows?
Yeah, hypnotherapy is interesting.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Dolores Cannon.
Yeah, she was something else.
Absolutely.
How long have you been doing hypnotherapy, Dan?
Legally I can hang out my shingle. I don't do that, but I studied it about 20 years ago, mainly because I was fascinated with the power of the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn about it and to find a way to enhance it as much as possible. So I went to school and graduated. I'm a registered clinical hypnotherapist, and I've done hundreds of mainly past life regressions, because that was a good way for me to build up my hours back during class, because people always like to do that.
Yeah.
So it's an effective tool if it's done right with the right people, the right frame of mind, under the right conditions. It's an extremely powerful tool.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually gone through a couple of hypnotherapy and past life regression sessions.
That's a fascinating area.
It really is. It really is. And I still don't have my mind wrapped around it, but also I'm taking Michelle's remote viewing course right now. And it's fascinating.
There's something to that. I've tried remote viewing, and there's definitely something to it, but I find for me, the pendulum is more accurate, because I can get not only not just a drawing, of a physical location. I can get a latitude and longitude of the location. I can get a street address. I can get how many people are in the building. I can get when the building is occupied or unoccupied, how many cars are out back. Is there a swimming pool? You can get all kinds of additional information using the pendulum.
The more questions you ask, the more details.
Lots of patience. It's a slow process.
Yeah, it definitely is. I did have that reminds me that you brought the pendulum back up during commercial break. I did have someone direct message me about the pendulum and asking if you could share any, tips or techniques so that they could practice if they were new to it. Like, what would you suggest to them?
Yeah, get a rock, get a string, and Yeah, seriously, you can buy pendulums almost any place, any psychic store.
You could even use a necklace.
I was about to say the last two pendulums I got are women's necklaces because I like the stone.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, that's a pendulum. Again, it's a rock on a string. Buy a good book. There are any number of pendulum books out there. I've got a couple.
Like yours.
Yeah, they're practical
I
pendulums.
want a Dan's books.
Yeah, you can buy it. My practical pendulum book and the paranormal pendulum book about dowsing the deceased are very basic how-to books. I mean, there's not a lot of what my hypnotherapist teacher called woo-woo. It's very practical. This is what it is.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
We just lost Dan. Time's up for Dan.
Neat trick, Dan.
Yeah. He had a disappearing act. We didn't know that was coming. Well, while he reconnects to us, we just have like 10 more minutes of the show. So I don't know if he'll choose to join us back or call it good. But while I have you here, George, you brought up in a past show that I saw about, I think it was you called them the Men in Black. I've heard about Men in Black before because I think it was Nick Redfern's book that I read about them.
Yeah.
But what's your experience with the Men in Black and their involvement with the experiences that you've had?
For myself, none. Now, we do have in the book a brief chapter called Men in Black because of a couple of things that occurred with Lindsay and her husband, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's right. That's the past. That's where I was headed to. I've heard that story.
It was not too long after the Netflix series aired. And so boom, the information's out there. Lindsay, the institution where she works, she has her office kind of separate from the front office there. And she has a direct phone line to her office that's never used. It's a direct line. Anybody can dial that number and her phone will ring, but it's not a published number. She doesn't use it. Her husband doesn't even know the number. It's just a dead phone. The other phone is the one that comes through the front desk. So anybody calling for Lindsay, they'll go through the front desk and they'll route it to the other phone. So that's the situation. And she was in her office one day and the direct line phone rang. Whoa, okay. So she answers, and a very gruff male voice says, I need to speak to you.
And that's how you do it. That's how you do it.
You're back.
Wow.
You're back. Did that make sense? Did that make sense? You got that all? Everybody got that?
I think we did get that, yeah.
You want me to finish this real quick?
Yeah, give us just a minute, Dan. George is in the middle of sharing the Men in Black story.
I don't know what happened.
But a couple of weeks later, Tim was in her office. He brought her lunch. And so he was in the office with Lindsay, and that same line rang again. And she answers it. I need to speak to Tim. Can I say who's calling? No. Click. Just out there enough that, and nobody knows that number. Mm-hmm. That was the important thing. And not too long after that, they were seeing a dark car parked across the street from them. And behind them or over that direction is a parking lot for a restaurant. So there's no reason for a car to be parked there, pointed at their house. So a few things like that. Nothing really threatening, just unnerving that somebody is aware of Lindsay and has access to some aspects of their life, where she lives, where the phone is in their office. We did a little session regarding that, and surprisingly confirmed that yes, there are these people, men in black, whatever they may be, who are interested in Lindsay, but more in a protective mode. That was what was a little, certainly unexpected. But yes, they're aware. They are keeping an eye on her, but it's more of a protective mode. Now, I'm not sure what all that means, but it was not to be interpreted by us as a negative thing.
Explain to us, though, who the Men in Black are.
We don't know. We didn't. Yeah, we didn't pursue specifically their identity because that would take us away from the Lindsay story. And
No, I mean in general, like why are they? Who are the Men in Black? And
we don't know.
Oh, nobody knows. They just call
We
them
don't
the
know.
Men in Black.
It's not something we pursued, so we don't really know.
It's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many components to this whole phenomenon that it's got a lot of
and plus there's a lot of people out there who probably don't want this information out in the world, and so they're
we definitely know that.
Yeah,
no question. Yeah.
I shouldn't say they're probably. I mean, we all know that. I'm just saying for.
And kind of on the heels of that, when people are waiting for the disclosure, well, there's not going to be a disclosure. What there's going to be is more personal interaction between individuals and the other life forms.
It's going to be more common.
It's going to be personal. It's going to be personal.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking back to when I was assistant state director of Louisiana for MUFON, very often when Dan would accompany me to one of these interviews, then all we were trying to do was just talk to somebody. We weren't trying to prove or disprove anything. They just needed to talk to somebody.
Right.
But most of the time, they also had a feeling that this was very personal, that it was meant for them. And I didn't quite get what that meant until open up the blinds and there's this 20-foot orb sitting over my neighbor's house.
And you had your own experience.
Hey, that's personal. I get it.
Right.
Yeah, something. I hear you hear this all the time. Well, if they're UFOs, why don't they land on the White House lawn? And my answer to that is, well, why would you?
And who's to say they haven't?
Well, there's the famous flyby back in the 60s. They had 2 weekends of flybys over the White House. But, my point is, I think George is right about the quote disclosure is going to be one-on-one, with individual people. They're not going to land at Moscow, or they're not going to land on the White House or in China, because those people are busy killing each other. They want to talk to people like you and me. They want to talk to mom and pop, Mr. Joe Average around the world.
Do you believe that they mean well and they're here to help raise our consciousness, to help us be better to our planet? Like, what do you feel their intention is with us?
The ones we have come in contact with are all positive.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine there are negative entities out there, but from our experience so far, the only ones we've been in contact with have only the best in hope for humankind.
Yeah. Well, there goes that like attracts like. You guys are really good at
exactly. Something to that effect.
Yeah. Well, and you're good fellas. So, of course, you're going to have good things happen and good experiences around you because your intentions are good and you're genuine about the research that you do and what you want to share with everyone. And as far, Dan, because we're running short on time, as far as the information on the pendulum, let's just get the names of all of the books so you can refer them to your book.
Yeah, you can pick it up in no time. You can pick up the technique in no time at all. You just need patience to learn it. And I've got the practical pendulum, the paranormal pendulum. Those two have the technique fully explained step by step by step.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Psychic Detective guidebook also has it in there.
Awesome. And then the books that you guys have co-written together. Tonight you've been talking about Paranormal Pendulum 3.
Correct.
You obviously have 1 and 2.
No, 1 and 2 are by Dan. I just helped with the research.
Teamwork makes the dream work. That's my favorite quote. I really believe it. And you guys are doing a lot of good out there in the world and sharing your experience, sharing your stories, giving people a safe place to share their stories, which I just think is a wonderful thing. It's needed and it's appreciated. And I think it's great that the both of you are doing that and then supporting them in their journey. That's what we're here for. We're here to help each other out. And you guys are doing a fantastic job at that.
Doing what we can.
Yeah.
Besides that, it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what else you gonna do?
We like exploring.
I get that.
We
and you
call
both have a great...
we call ourselves the New Explorers Club.
I want in the club.
You're welcome. You're on the team now.
Louisiana is quite a magical place with tons and tons of history. I actually lived in Louisiana for 1 year when I was younger. I was a nanny there in a really tiny town. And
Which town?
Fluker.
I know Fluker. Where is that?
It's I want to say it's like an hour outside of New Orleans.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's really small.
Yeah.
I mean, when I went there, I had a little bit of a culture
Those are
shock.
great little towns down there. Those are great.
Yeah. I mean, good people, really good people. And Louisiana is the place that I fell in love with cemeteries. I became obsessed with cemeteries living there, and I wanted to go to all of them. And so everywhere I go now, I have to check out their oldest cemetery because I just really gained this respect and loved the energy of the culture there and how they do the whole end of life and celebration and all of that stuff. It was just
some good attitudes in this state.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stuff in that state.
There's
a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, go to the small towns for the real Mardi Gras.
Yeah, for the good stuff.
Yeah, the good
not
stuff.
The commercialized stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree. Well, gentlemen, it has been so fantastic having you here on the show with us. Let's make sure we get your websites one more time so everyone knows how to reach out to you. Go ahead, Dan.
www.fournightspress.com, FOURKNIGHT, and danbaldwin.com.
Perfect. George?
www.georgesewell.com.
Great. You guys, thank you so much for honoring with us.
Yeah, it's been a hoot, AJ. Thank you.
I'm going to keep following you. I really like you guys, and I like what you're doing.
Well, you're on the team now.
Okay.
I love it. I love being part of a team. Like I said, teamwork makes the dream work. Thanks again, guys. And to all of you, our listeners, thank you for being here and hanging out with us tonight. Great show. We love story time, don't we? Make sure you all are taking care of yourself and each other. And I will see you guys all next week. Good night.
So long.